my last night in the Whitbread. Yep. It's kind of sad. Sad in some ways. Happy in some ways. 9:30 at night I should be nice and dry, reading a magazine on my couch in front of the fireplace, instead of sitting here in these damp clothes. But, you know, I probably got the rest of my life to sit in front of the fireplace in Kentfield reading a magazine. So this has been a unique opportunity. It's been cool. It's like the ultimate Boy Scout trip.
Whitbread Round the World race, the most challenging offshore sailing race in the world. During 8 months, 9 crews of radical sailors will race the planet in what is considered to be one of the most demanding sporting competitions in the world. The Whitbread has very often been referred to as the sailboat racing equivalent of climbing Mount Everest. The challenge is so big that the achievement of completing the whole course is a victory in itself. The Whitbread is a single-class offshore race. Most of the time, the boats are competing far away from land. In fact, between Auckland and Brazil, the fleet is as far away from land as it is possible to be on Earth. The Whitbread has nothing to do with an ordinary boat ride. The racetrack brings the boat into the most unusual conditions, and that makes the Whitbread a full-scale challenge. Crews of the best sailors in the world put their skills into circling the globe in 8 months on board 63 feet of extreme sailing racing machines.
The Whitbread is basically heading off with 11 other people, and what you need to conquer is fear, Mother Nature, and you're basically given technology in its purest fashion to allow you to do this.
It's a mix of driving a Ferrari F40 in the South African jungle, full speed with no lights on, and being dragged behind a powerboat with a rope tied around your feet in 30 knots in the Southern Ocean.
The Whitbread is the reference of the offshore racing. It means that you do the round the world in 9 months with short legs, which are very tactical and very technical, and long legs, and it's with the best level of the sailors, and I think it's really the best offshore racing that you can imagine, and full crew. So it's a lot of story around this race.
I think you could say it was one of the toughest challenges a professional sportsman has to face. The intensity over 9 months with very little rest and all day, 24 hours a day is obviously an extremely tough challenge.
Every 4 years since 1973, the race has been a major event. It has attracted millions of sailing enthusiasts from around the world to see the starts and the arrivals of the fleets on all stopovers. But of course, following an offshore race is a bit more difficult than watching a football game. To compensate for that, video footage was transmitted from the boats every day using state-of-the-art satellite communication equipment permanently mounted on board. An Inmarsat B satellite dish was mounted below decks in the bow of each boat to transmit these images. Millions of spectators could follow the race through extensive television coverage and the World Wide Web, which also turned out to be a tremendous success. Cyber sailors could follow the race with updates on the boat's position every 6 hours. The web turned out to be perfect for this kind of application. The success was so big that the site had peaks of 15 million hits a day.
Over the years, the Whitbread has been the source of stories that seem more like legends than reality. Sailing in wind speed of up to 70 knots, reaching boat speeds of 35 knots through icebergs and whales that could literally have a titanic effect on a sailboat at any time.
Oh, it's tough. It's absolutely tough. It stretches man to his utter limits. If you take the cold of the southern oceans and the rather nasty conditions that you can get down there, huge seas, 50, 60 feet seas, that's pretty tough in a 60-foot boat.
It's extreme. We take the boats to places not many other people take their boats to.
Really, it's a 9-month adrenaline-pumping, frightening odyssey. So it's actually, the perception of the yachtsman is slightly different than the perception of maybe how the public see it. Nature's part of it, but it's more what nature can do for you in terms of giving you more wind, rather than observing nature as something of beauty.
It's a tough race to win because it's not just about sailing. It's about organization, and it's about leadership, and it's about 12 guys working together for 9 months. And so the race itself is scored by who wins the race, but it's really a lot of other challenges involved besides just the sailing.
EF Language, skippered by Paul Kayard, won the race well ahead of the other boats. The track is divided into 9 legs, for which every boat is awarded points according to its performance. The boat that accumulates most points wins the event. EF Language had such a lead that before the last leg, mathematically, they'd already won the race.
We came well prepared with a fast boat, good sails, and we sailed a good race outside our normal environment, which is more the America's Cup and the match racing and Olympic class sailing. And we raced against these guys who do this all the time. Some of them have done it 4 or 5 times.
The crews and the boats are constantly pushing the limits, not only from the skippers, but also from the extreme level of competition and some unbelievable sailing conditions. The situations they face could be deadly. Although no lives were lost in the last Whitbread, it had its share of incidents. Anna Droger from EF Education got her right hand caught in a winch. Marco Constant fractured his left wrist while going down the companionway, and Josh Belsky wounded his right leg while maneuvering in the cockpit area. As you can see here, one of the crew members doubles as onboard doctor and is closing the wound with a special type of skin stapler.
Is that a good one?
Silk Cut and EF Education broke their mast in the middle of the Pacific Ocean between New Zealand and Brazil.
We were all downstairs, and the minute we came off the wave, the boat came up right, and you just know it's wrong, It was a pretty loud noise as well, but, if you fall off a wave, the boat makes a lot of noise anyway, so it wasn't like we were all shocked by the bang, but there was a bang, and someone sticks their head out and say, "Oh, the mast is down, get dressed, everyone. We've got a job to... got some work to do here."
In the case of EF Education, their shore team deployed outstanding logistic efforts in order to have a new mast delivered to the nearest port. The new mast was cut into 2 parts and brought to Argentina by a Hercules airplane hired from the Argentinian army. This way, the girls of EF Education could fit the new mast onto the boat and keep on racing.
2 of the boats finished 10 seconds apart in Baltimore after racing for more than 850 miles from Fort Lauderdale. Ocean racing history has rarely seen so much close racing as it did during this race. The reason is simple. On board these boats, there is nothing less than the cream of the world's yachtsmen. The boats themselves are the ultimate models in engineering and optimization. The design of the boat is governed by a class called the Whitbread 60, which defines certain parameters of the boat in the same way that Formula One does to racing cars. Everything on the boat has to be analyzed and developed to create a sailboat that is not only as fast as possible, but also can resist the roughest conditions imaginable.
When these boats are being pushed to their absolute limits, you know, down below I can feel it, up on deck I can feel it. You're very much on the edge of, you know, total disaster, but at the same time, what the boats can do and what you can do with these boats in those conditions is just incredible. You know, I've never gone that fast for that long in that kind of environment, being that remote, you know, where if something disastrous did happen, you're on your own.
These engineering limits are a challenge to everyone involved in building the boat. Some extremely clever solutions were brought to bear. None of them will win a Nobel Prize, but if there was one for the amount of clever ideas on a moving vehicle, these boats would be serious candidates.
I think we have two of the best built boats in the fleet, and yeah, it's a true racing machine. It's definitely a fast boat, there's no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, they're incredible boats, little Grand Prix yachts.
I think that the EF Language's boat is, you know, they got the fastest boat, and that's helped. Although they've put the package together really nicely. Although the boats look all the same, they're not, and although they're similar, they are similar, but that does make a difference. And so there's different boats that have performed probably, I mean, our boat probably hasn't performed from a speed point of view as well as we'd hoped it would have. EF's probably performed slightly better than they thought it would have, so, you know, you do get differences.
Yes, it's a big boat, but at the same time, it's like a dinghy or even a windsurfer. And when you sail them, in many conditions, you have to sail them as a planning dinghy or a windsurfer, and not a displacement boat, which makes them very different.
Starting from scratch, these boats are designed with some of the most sophisticated finite element analysis tools available. The shapes are tested in wind tunnels and towing tanks to get the lowest drag possible. The boats are built of Kevlar, which is a very rugged and tough material. It's not as light and stiff as carbon fiber, but carbon fiber wouldn't be exactly the right material for this application because carbon fiber is quite brittle while being light and strong.
We have to make them strong enough to get through the absolute worst conditions that a boat will sail in. And the race has become so competitive that no one ever backs off in terms of seamanship to look after the boat. The boat has to take anything that the crews will put it through. On the other hand, there's a distinct performance advantage in saving weight in everything above the bottom of the keel, because any weight that you save above that point goes into the bulb at the bottom of the keel and increases the stability of the boat, which is really the force that generates the power in the boat. And so we have this balance between making the boat ever lighter, but at the same time actually making it stronger than last time because the guys are going to sail the boats more aggressively. So we've achieved our goal of making the boats robust and reliable to get around the world. At the same time, we were able to save something like 200 to 300 kilos of weight out of the structure of the boat and drop it into the bottom of the keel.
It does feel good, but it's always nice to have a boat that doesn't get blamed for losing a race, sorry. I mean, people never say they won a race because of the boat, but they are always quite quick to say they lost a race because of the boat. So it's nice not to be in that position.
Conversely, when we go upwind, these boats are as powerful and impressive as maxi yachts, which have a total displacement of close to 30 tons, that would be twice the weight, because we are pumping water ballast into tanks on the windward side of the boat and increasing the stability that way.
Without wind, a sailboat would remain horizontal in the water. In racing conditions, the wind is a lateral component that makes the boat heel over to the opposite side. The consequence is that there is less sail surface in direct contact with the wind, and that diminishes the performance of the boat as far as speed is concerned. In order to increase speed, the boat is brought back into a more upright position by adding 5.5 tons of lead in the form of a bulb located on the bottom of the keel. Extra stability is obtained by pumping up to 2,500 liters of ocean water into the ballast tanks located on the windward side. This vertical component will then compensate the heeling effect, making the boat more stable and increasing the sail surface in direct contact with the wind, thereby giving the boat extra power.
So this boat will go upwind with the fastest boats and downwind with the fastest, therefore combining the best performance of any monohull in any condition all into one package. And that makes them extremely fun to sail for us, the sailors, and it helps us get from Southampton to Cape Town in 30 days rather than 40 days.
In order to achieve optimal speed, the hull of the boat must be in top condition. The boat is regularly taken out of the water, and extra attention is given to the hull, the keel, the rudder and the propeller, so that they will offer as little resistance as possible. The shore team puts a lot of effort into making sure that the surfaces are as smooth and hydrodynamic as possible.
To be able to see that nothing has caught on the leading edge of the keel, rudder or the propeller, we have windows. And we have even more than windows. We have this little fiber optic lens. So we have additionally to the windows, because you can with the windows see everything except the very top of the, for example, the leading edge of the keel. You can't see the very top. Even if you try very hard to look through the window, you can't see the top. So we have a little fiber optic equipment, a little hole in the boat. You can open, you put that fiber optics in there, and through that you can see the whole bottom of the boat. And it's a very expensive piece of equipment, but it's very good.
The appendages on the Whitbread 60 are very low drag, oriented mostly for downwind sailing. We have a very short chord length fin that's about 70 centimeters long by about 3 meters deep. And at the end of that fin is suspended a bulb that weighs about 6 tons, solid lead torpedo.
Come over here, you can see the first part of what makes these things go so fast, which is a very solid hunk of lead. It's 5.5 tons, and it's attached to a stainless steel keel, which is another 3/4 of a ton. And it's all connected up here, you can see. A big flange.
The rudder is a very high aspect ratio rudder. That means, again, long span, short chord length, again suited to downwind sailing and high speed sailing.
So we have 40 kilos of carbon, one Whitbread 60 rudder. We keep them as small as possible so they don't have too much drag. Of course, we've got to keep them strong because they reach a long way down. You can imagine this thing steering this boat at 40 knots, going down a wave, 40 knots of breeze, maybe 30 knots of boat speed. It's a hell of a lot of load on this thing. So it's got to be strong. It's attached to a big bearing up there, top and bottom. It's a rose bearing, which means it allows their whole rudder to bend across its whole shaft. It's another piece that we keep very smooth. We sand it religiously with 800 grit. We paint it just about every stopover. We leave the leading edge free of anti-fouling because we also floss things on it. Try to keep it clean, if you can imagine. Actually, we even caught a shark on this thing once, and they used the big kelp stick to push that shark off this rudder.
You're on his head. There you go. Take him off. There you go. There he goes. What is it? Let's see it. Look for him. He's gone. He's still there. He's still down the keel. Oh man, that poor guy's just getting killed. Keep pushing down. There he goes. Oh, there he goes.
Since the rules of the Whitbread 60 class have very precise specifications as to the total weight of the boat with the lightest hull will be able to put more weight into its bulb. The materials used in the fabrication of the hull need to be strong and light, two properties that push the structure to the limit between performance and disaster.
When you're standing on deck and the boat's rolling down waves and getting hit by different conditions, and whether you're going upwind or downwind, you're feeling the whole boat twist and tweak a little bit. There's a lot of loads pulling in a lot of different directions, and you can really feel that under your feet. Another sensation that I have all the time, which never ceases to freak me out, is when I'm lying in my bunk down below, and the bunks are attached to the walls, which are actually acting as the tank face for our ballast tanks. Well, you've got 1,000 liters of water in each one of these tanks, for instance, and you're lying there, and that's sloshing around in this tank, and you're feeling this pretty heavy-duty, strong wall flexing, and you're moving with it. And as a result, you're lying in your bunk, and you're kind of doing this deal as the boat goes over the waves, and it's pretty cool, but it's a pretty eerie feeling to know that, if something goes wrong, if there's something wrong with that material and it gives in one area, the whole thing's going to split open, and you're going to wind up on the floor with about 1,000 liters of water on top of you. So hopefully that won't ever happen. So the boat's really made out of it's like an ice cream sandwich. It's got ice cream in the middle, which is a foam core, and then it's got two laminated sides, one on the outside, one on the inside, and that keeps it really light and really strong. It's almost the strength of steel, but it doesn't have the stiffness of steel. When we have the sails up on our boat, a lot of our sails, masthead, which go up to the top of the mast, are really big. They generate tremendous loads, which help to propel us forward, but I would say a majority of those loads are then translated into the stays that hold the mast up and are attached to the boat. What this does is this transfers a tremendous amount of pressure, thousands of kilos, down our backstay and down our forestay and into the fore and aft structural stability of the boat. This creates sort of a load-bearing triangle in which all three sides are bearing tremendous amount of load all the time.
To compensate for extreme loads generated by bigger sails, extra support to the mast is achieved by adding tension in the running backstay. This pulls the head of the mast slightly backwards, therefore adding tension to the forestay as well as the deck.
We can adjust the stays that support the mast that hold the sails up in the air, and the bigger the sails, the more amount of load we need to put on these stays in order to support them while they're up in the air. By doing that, we grind up more running backstay tension. That makes the two upper sides of our triangle that much straighter, that much stiffer. The more wind strength, the more load that comes on there, the more we have to adjust that tension. When we do so, unfortunately, something has to give a little bit. In this case, in this boat, and what I discussed before about the materials it's made out of, the boat tends to flex a little bit from bow to stern. As I said, the backstay attachment point is in the back of the boat. The headstay attachment point's in the front of the boat. So over a span of 64 feet of boat, you're carrying out this tremendous amount of load. So the boat tends to bend a little bit. You can see the deck bend a little bit. And actually, when we have max runner tension on, you kind of see the lifeline start to sag a little bit because the boat's actually getting a little shorter. It's kind of bowing up like a banana. Okay, a perfect example of the flex that we see in the hulls of boats due to the amount of loads on the standing rigging, backstay, headstay, would be, come to my mind, would be the America's Cup in 1995 when the Australian entry won Australia. On a windy day in San Diego, wound up a little too much running backstay, and the boat flexed just a little too far, and it snapped in half and sunk to the bottom in about 15 seconds.
There's real problems here. The crew are summoning the chase boat to come alongside. There are real problems. The boat has snapped in two. The structure has given in. One Australia is taking on a lot of water. This is very serious. Well, now the crew have got to move quickly. They could be in serious trouble, and they're getting off quickly. They could be in danger if they get caught on that rig. They've got to get off the boat fast. The boat is bending. It is going down fast. Look at the three on the foredeck. What on earth are they doing? They've got to get off. There's the Team New Zealand chase boat. And they've gone along to pick up the crew. This is incredible. A Formula One racing yacht is breaking up before our eyes and sinking.
Yeah, basically, they had an engineering, a structural problem with I guess early on, you know, the design phase, and the designers didn't quite design enough structure into the boat, or perhaps the structure that was designed into the boat was so minimalistic that the boat builders didn't do their job in finishing it. And exactly what happened, I'll explain with this orange. If this is a sailboat, and we'll call Australia One's bow here and their stern here. Basically, the boat sits in a wave, it creates a wave, and there's a bow wave and a stern wave, and it kind of digs a hole or a trench as the boat's moving along. And it's amplified by the fact that waves are kind of coming at the hull, so there's a lot of moment of the bow trying to lift and the stern trying to lift. And what happened on this particular day, which was 16 knots, pretty windy in San Diego, by America's Cup standards, and they're designed for 9 knots of wind, is in the strong breeze, Australia One, basically the structure, as explained to me by some of the engineers, kind of got faulty in here, and as the bow lifted and the stern lifted and the middle sank, and the middle is also forced to sink because of the keel weight hanging down in the middle. Basically, the structure pulled away, which held the boat together. Like, it's pretty strong shape if I'm holding it here, if it's held together. But as the structure was allowed to let go, or the glues came undone, or it was not enough to support the loads, basically the bow lifted and the stern lifted and it cracked. And as the boat cracked, the keel drove the center of the boat down into the wave some more. So within, I think, 1 minute and 35 seconds, basically the boat broke in half and went to the bottom.
Sucked into the Pacific.
No one was hurt during this incident. The America's Cup is not an offshore race, therefore all crew members were rescued very quickly. In the case of the Whitbread, the rescue units may take days to reach the site of the incident. The boat builders and the sailors are very much aware of this.
I mean, obviously, it's very easy to destroy a boat, to sail a boat so it breaks. It's not hard for us because there's an enormous amount of load on the boat. So you have to understand what kind of loads and where they are and how to manage them.
To withstand the enormous lateral loads, the mast is supported by 2 types of rods, the verticals, called the V's, and the diagonals, or the D's.
Here we are on the leeward side, and you can see, you can feel easily how slack the D1 gets, but the V1 is still very firm. This thing that the D's go slack on the leeward side, you like to put shock cord here to take up the movement so it doesn't move around too much. Now we're tacking, and you can feel how it starts to get loaded up. And now we're over on the other tack, and the wind comes in from this side, and this is pretty firm now. So these things, they see a lot more fatigue, the D's, than the V's are, because the V's are more a steady load on them. This gets loaded and unloaded. So these are the ones you worry about when it comes to fatigue. And if you're going to change any of the rods during a Whitbread, you start to change the D's.
We usually completely strip the masts between the legs, because with the masts it's very hard also to see if there's any fine cracks or any, especially in the rod, because the pieces that all join together, they're all hidden from you when it's all put together. So you need to be able to take it all apart so you can see all those bits that are hidden from you know, when you're sailing. You can't see that.
The mast is a delicate part of the boat that needs extreme care and attention. In most cases, breaking a mast means losing a leg, or even worse, losing the race. As in other types of competition, the desire to win the race is so big that sailors have a tendency to push their boat to the limit.
But still, there are situations that you have to tell. For example, if you're responsible for the mast, you have a good feeling about the mast. You have to tell the guys, now it's too much. We have to put on the brakes a little bit. We can't sail much further with this load case. The mast is not happy. It's cranking out, it's bending too much here. And you can see compression coming here. And so you have to know that, and you have to put the brakes on a little bit, not sail so hard with this sail in this condition. You have to perhaps put up another sail or ease down a little bit on the course or whatever, because there are situations when you start load up the boat too much and you're very near a gear failure. And it's very important. I mean, you can't really say that, oh, bad luck, we lost the mast. This is what you get for free in the Whitbread. A nice sunset.
Just another one of the 120 nights that we've spent out here riding around on our bateau. This is a very pleasant one. We're not getting hit by buckets of ice water. It's not snowing. It's not blowing 50. It's a very mild, tame evening on the good ship EF Language.
Everything bad happens at night. It never happens during the day. All the radical puffs come through, all the sails break, all the wicked shifts come through. The rogue wave that you plow the bow into that doesn't happen during the day, but all happens at night. Ooh, thank you very much. Cookie Man. Cookie Man comes at night too.
I mean, normal sailing at night is just, it's a little more technical. You're doing everything from memory. Juggy and I mainly run dark on the bow. We don't really use any lights because we know where everything is, and it just disrupts the driver's concentration. So we try to keep all the light and activity to a minimum, and then as a result, they kind of just let us run around up there and don't worry about us too much. And it's kind of up to us to make sure we stay on board. And, Southern Ocean is a whole different gig. That's the full-on, that's the amusement park ride. That's like doing 100 miles an hour in your bedroom closet.
EF Language, the winning boat, was given the chance of having a twin sister, EF Education. The elaboration of a two-boat campaign was a first in Whitbread's history.
We have two boats, and they're identical boats, and one of the concepts behind the strategy of building two identical boats was to allow us to make big gains in sail development, the sails being the engine of the boat. And so by having eliminated all the variables of hull design and keel design, we can really identify the performance gains through the sails by testing these two boats one against the other.
I mean, what is interesting about these boats is the development people have done of the different sails. They're a set of parameters of the rules, and over the races people have pushed the parameters and the limits of the rules to make very innovative sails to comply with the rules and give good boat speed.
The whole sail program is orientated around a big budget, which means buying more sails, testing sails, developing sails, getting rid of sails, building new sails from scratch again, starting the whole program again and again until we've refined the whole process. What it entails starting out with a set of sails and going sailing against another boat, and putting up another sail on the other boat, and that sail beats boat A. So you say, okay, well the sail on boat A is no good, let's get rid of that, or let's change that. Now the sail on boat B is the benchmark. So we come back and we change the sail on boat A, and then we go back out again, and that sail beats boat B. So now boat A is the benchmark, that sail. So you take boat B's sail, take that back, and recut that, and now to move your benchmark up. So you keep testing and moving your benchmark up all the time, and that's how the whole process is developed, and how you come up with the sails that you end up with. Of course, it's a never-ending process, and you could go on forever and ever and just get better and better all the time.
Most sails are made out of pieces of Kevlar sewn together in the desired shape. A new process called 3DL helps to make the sails better and lighter.
So what happens is they put a base layer of Mylar down, and then they have a big gantry over the mold. The mold is all pumped up now to the desired shape of the sail. And they start pulling Kevlar yarns with the gantry. They just go up and down the sail, pulling these yarns. And then they take these Mylar film strips, these cross-cut pieces, and they laminate them over it. They put them on top and they take them down, and they put a big heater over it, like a furnace heater type thing. And there's a guy in like a hang gliding jacket, and he's got his little hang glider sock above the thing, and he's got a wet mop, and he goes over with his heater, and he's just behind the heater, and they drive the heater over it, and it bakes the sail, and the guy pushes it down, and they make sure it's all stuck flat and laminate the sail. There's a bonding between the laminars, and they bond, and they pull it off, and it's one molded piece of sail.
The optimization of the shape of the sail is crucial. Aerodynamic laws are pushed to the limits to provide the boat with all the power that the wind has to offer. When the wind blows from behind the boat, some sails act more like a parachute. In downwind conditions, the sail captures the wind in its pocket and moves the boat along in the same direction as the wind. The situation is different when the boat is sailing upwind.
When the wind is coming from the front, the shape of the sail employs the same principle as the wing of an airplane. The shape induces a distortion in the wind flow that generates a force perpendicular to the direction of the wind. The resulting crosswind force is also called lift. The lift vector being oriented towards the bow of the boat, it generates a driving force that can be used to move the boat forward.
The optimization of that driving force becomes essential to winning the race. The development of new sails can give a boat enormous competitive advantage.
The development of new sails, shapes particularly, and the materials they're made of, that's what's made the difference in this race. The people with the really good sail programs are coming out on top.
There may be up to 19 sails on board a boat. The configuration and the uses of these sails can make a very big difference in the way the boat performs throughout the race.
From our original training and practicing with different sails before the start of the race, we've developed a set of polars, or basically different boat speeds for different weather conditions and different sail combinations. And what we try and do is sail to our optimum to try and get 100% on our target speeds. So if the wind is light, obviously your target speed is less than if the wind is strong, or if you're going into the wind, obviously your boat speed is less than if you're running before 30 knots in the Southern Ocean.
On the instrument display on the mast, the top one is always the boat speed. The second display is always a reference to the performance of the boat. When we're sailing what we call target angles, which would be either trying to go straight upwind or trying to go straight downwind, we have the target boat speed and the target true wind angle displayed. That's the coordinates that describes an angle and a speed, which are like coordinates that would yield the best velocity made good either into the wind or away from the wind. When we're between those two extremes, we change that display to a percentage of performance. So if we're reaching at a 100-degree true wind angle, the instrument is rating us against our best performance that we've logged with the computer in the past. So if we're sailing in a 95% situation, we know that maybe we either have the wrong sail up, the sails that are up aren't trimmed right, or the helmsman's not doing the proper job. So that inspires us to check around and find out what's wrong and try to keep the thing at 100% as much of the time as possible.
A cruising boat, when you're sailing, you could trim the sails, you could get some better driver, you could stack a few things. It's not going to make a difference in speed. It's just going to do what it's going to do. A racing boat will vary radically in its performance capabilities depending on small little changes. I mean, we can see somebody dropping this Traveler down like 4 inches will show up 0.2 of a knot on the knot meter. I mean, it's just very, very sensitive to being overloaded or stalled, or, maybe, the wrong sail is up, it's too full in the middle. So the racing boat is very sensitive to small changes, so it's very important to get them just right.
I think the role of a navigator has changed a bit. Traditionally, when you say navigator, people imagine someone standing on the deck with a sextant looking for stars or the sun or something like that. But nowadays, the role of a navigator has changed considerably, particularly in Whitbread and this sort of Formula One yacht racing?
Basically, my primary job is to keep the boat safe navigationally. I have to make sure that the boat doesn't, you know, when we're near shore, doesn't hit dirt or rock or reef or whatever. Then from there, my next priority is to try and find the safe route weather-wise again. You know, make sure we don't end up in a bad low-pressure system. We don't end up, you know, in a bad situation with ice or maybe some landmark down the line that we don't get stuck, you know, in a lee shore in a bad weather condition. And then routing the boat as quickly as possible weather-wise from point A to point B, from start to finish. I have to try and find the optimum, fastest route and keep track of where the boat is and that it's sailing the shortest distance to those best points all the time.
And the other thing that's interesting now compared to earlier races is that the positions of the boats are sent out to the fleet every 6 hours. In the old days, in the early few races, maybe the first 3 races, they didn't have satellite communications, so they only had radio communication. That was once a day. You were lucky if you knew where the other boats were. Now, every 6 hours we know where the boats are, and sometimes they even send us position updates every 3 hours. So then you know exactly where everyone is, what course they're doing, what speed they're doing, and you know, trying to make sure that you're doing faster course than them. So it's every couple of hours, everyone's saying, has there been a new sked yet? Has there been a new sked yet? And you say, no, it's coming in half an hour. Everyone's waiting to see whether you've gained miles or lost miles on the other boats.
Then there's the Merit Cup.
Oh no, that's clothing, Rudy. That's clothing.
All right. They were 16.5 miles behind the last skid on distance 2. Now they're 35.1 miles fast.
Yeah.
Yes! Bang it!
Yes!
You know, I race for the team. I race because I like the, you know, I like the strategy part of it, the chess, the mouse, cat and mouse part of it. I love sailing as fast as possible, and so, you know, really the trophy part and the media part is something that's kind of secondary. So until I guess the race is over and I've accomplished that, then I won't really be able to dwell on the rest. But I'm sure it'll be a great feeling, you know, and it'll be something that I'll, you know, take with me for the rest of my life. You know.
Well, this is my second Whitbread. The first Whitbread was a dream. It was a dream come true, you know. So to fulfill a dream and to one so huge, I mean, it's not like it was easy to do, but to do that, I mean, the satisfaction is amazing. And once you come a part of something like the Whitbread, once you're there, you're in there for life pretty much. So, you know, this is something I remember as a kid. I just admired and just thought the Whitbread was the best thing, and now it's my life. So it's pretty neat to be involved with something that you love so much and you can make a living out of it.
You know, it's both satisfying, and we have to, any time you win something big like that, you have to be conscious of the fact that you had a fair amount of good luck on your side, because whoever wins these things has some luck, and or at least doesn't have as much bad luck maybe as the others. So things went well for us. We didn't break the mast. We didn't, you know, run aground or do anything terrible like that, or lose any crew members overboard. So things went well, smoothly.
EF Language won the race with 836 points over Merit Cup, which had 698. As in most sporting events, the media attention in the Whitbread is mostly centered around the spectacular aspects of the race and the result. But behind the glory of the finishing line lies the hard work of the crews and the leadership of the skippers. The role of the skipper is still obscure for many. Skippering a racing sailboat is much more than just choosing which course to take. the skipper has to keep the crew focused for 9 months, even if they are sailing the leading boat. TV cameras have seldom captured crew meetings, which could highlight this aspect of the skipper's job. Most of the time, these kind of meetings take place way offshore to make sure nobody's around to listen. The footage you're about to see was shot on board EF Language right after the finishing line of leg 6 in Fort Lauderdale. Although EF Language finished second on that leg, the boat was still leading over Swedish Match with almost 20% more points.
You know, I'm kind of frustrated, a little upset because we had a chance to win that race and we didn't do it. We didn't pull the trigger, and you know, I kind of see us as a team that when they have the opportunity, they seize it. I feel like sometimes we don't dig deep enough and think about doing everything we can possibly do to help the boat win at that moment. Like, sometimes we're too regimented, you know, we're too much into the watch system, we're too much into, you know, offshore racing. I think sometimes we got to snap out of that and do the extraordinary, because there could be something that you could do at that moment that would help the boat. And certainly on the next leg, we're going to have to be in that mode all the way. You know, it's just full on all the way. And I mean, you sleep if you get time, but otherwise it's just going to be doing whatever you can. If it's sponge the bilge or whatever, there's always something you could do to make the boat go faster. So I don't mean, I'm not negative, and sometimes I'm sure I seem negative, but I'm just really wanting us to do the best we can. And I see some areas, in my opinion, that we aren't doing the best we can. So that's the goal for me at this point, is when the race is, you know, looking good for us, my goal is to push us to do even better. And I see some little things that we should be doing better than we are, and I just want us to do it.
EF Language, Paul, have really given us all a sailing lesson. And I've learned a lot from just observing the way that EF does things.
You know, on the whole, the EF program looked to be the strongest, and they came home with the trophy, a well-deserved win.
The performance of EF Language was outstanding. The boat accumulated 17% more points than the second-place winner, Merit Cup. Overall, EF Language won 3 legs out of 9 and achieved a total of 6 podium positions.
I think I said most of what I wanted to say at the end of leg 8, but I just want to say thanks for sailing with me, and I had a good time. Mostly had a good time because we won, but there were some incredible experiences out there that I'll never forget. And Mange, thanks for letting me steer your boat, for asking me to skipper your boat. And I don't know, I don't think it'll ever happen to me this good again. And I don't know if I'll ever do the race again, but I'll never forget this one, that's for sure. So that's all I really have to say, is thanks a lot.
Cutting-edge technology and expertise is what made EF Language a winning boat. The intensity of the skipper, the sailors, and the shore crew is what made them a winning team. For sailors like Magnus Olsson, winning the Whitbread was the fruit of 20 years of dedication and hard work.
You set up your goals in life, and of course you want to set up high ambition goals because you want them to be hard to reach. And why I just wanted to win the Whitbread? Well, it's the best you can do if you want to be a cool ocean racer. That's your Mount Everest. That's the best you can win when it comes to ocean racing. And it's fantastic to be there.
We are flying. We are really flying.